Oh,
Back in the room.
Back in the room after we
room.
visited Scotland last week.
Yeah. And lost our Scottish crowd because of our terrible Scottish accents.
No, I had good reports from a bona fide
Did you?
Scot. Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was he drunk?
Yeah. No, she was very
Oh, was it she?
complimentary. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
All right. So,
Okay.
this episode is for anyone who's had the ADHD diagnosis or self-diagnosis, Paul.
Yes, important.
And suddenly, the world seems different. They start noticing different things.
Yeah.
It's not the same place that it was. It's a bit like
you're
falling...
Suddenly you're looking at the world through different eyes.
Exactly. So let's go to a place where the distractions are landmarks and the detours are the main roads. Welcome to ADHDville.
Meet the gang, 'cause the boys are here, boys to entertain you. Gang, boys to entertain, boys to entertain, boys to entertain you.
Nice.
Oh, let the intro go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Paul Thompson, and I was diagnosed with the combined ADH and the D crawling towards a couple of years ago.
And I'm Martin West, and I was diagnosed with combined poo-poo platter in 2013. And we start off in the King's Agitated Head pub,
yes,
where we take care of business. And on the agenda today, we are talking about those things that the world seems a little bit different. It's almost like the Matrix. You know, you take the blue pill or the red pill, and then suddenly you're in a whole different place.
Yeah. And especially at the beginning, right? It's almost like a given. Obviously, we've done podcasts on this at the beginning, where it's like, you know, rabbit in the headlights. It's like shock. It's like all of a sudden reframing your historical, you know, your personal history. Okay, but then beyond that, it's like you start seeing like present things in a different way. Things that are like under your nose in a different way, not necessarily looking back necessarily.
All right, so let's quickly jump into the tractor.
Yes.
And where
perch a buttock onto that tractor seat.
Yeah.
Is it me or that tractor seat's getting narrower and narrower, or it's just me?
You know what? It's me as well. I should be cutting down on my food. It's going straight to my thighs, Paul. Straight to my thighs.
It doesn't go to my thighs. It goes to my kind of my fianco. Oh my god, that's Italian. The sides. You love handles.
Oh right,
goes there on me.
Lovely. Well, you're
like a
clearly
trophy.
a very love handle. You have a lot of love handle to give.
Love handles. Yeah, exactly. Don't look at the.
Where are we heading?
Lumps that I've got. I'm just Paul from the block.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going? Where we go? Park bench.
Look, Paul, I don't have the park bench up.
You don't have that teed up. Oh, what have you got up, Martin? Give me some options.
Look, we do have a script here. Look, if you look at it.
Oh,
right,
okay. We go to the library, Martin.
Oh, there we go.
We go to the library.
Right. Because we're going to vaguely learn something. We are. And we haven't been there for a while, so let's slide our slender buttocks onto the tractor seat and make our way to the library.
Right.
Shove up, shove up. Have you remembered your library card?
Well, I was just thinking, when was the last time you went to a library?
About a month ago.
Oh, really?
And I got my library card renewed so that I could download audiobooks.
Oh, look at you.
So I've churned through about 20 books in the last. Yeah, like I am just
audio books though.
Yep.
Audio.
Yep.
Okay, I never did audio books.
Oh, loving them. I'm soaking them up like a sponge.
Okay, alrighty. Okay.
Before we get on to this subject, spoons. Spoons.
Right. Yes.
Do you have a favorite spoon? So when you kind of go and you need a spoon and you go to the spoon drawer,
I do.
Do you like go, oh, I know the exact spoon that I want?
Totally. I did. I had made this exact choice this morning when I was looking for the correct spoon for eating the granola and yogurt kind of mix. Right. So I've got the granola, muesli-ish kind of thing. Then Greek yogurt on the top, and I went to the cutlery drawer, and I purposely I pointed my aim at a certain type of spoon, not a big spoon. I don't like eating muesli with a big spoon. I like a little spoon, and it's a particularly nice spoon, a nice shape. Yeah. What about
I thought you might. Well, see, I've been obsessed on TikTok. I don't know whether you know, but there's this current trend where people get the autistic or the neurodivergent community to rate their spoons. So they take a picture of their spoon.
Oh, okay.
And then they put it up online, like a top view and a side view, so you can kind of see the curves. And then everyone piles in and then rates that spoon.
Okay. I literally bought 2 years ago in Palermo. I bought a really good cutlery set.
All right.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it makes the kind of the eating experience more pleasurable, Martin.
Right. You know what? It does, because obviously ADHD, autism, it's a very sensory focused thing. And it's surprising to me how the entire neurodivergent community will, like, there are certain spoons that come up where most people will be like, yes, that is a good spoon. And they'll rate it 10 out of 10.
Well, one way of establishing the quality of the spoon would talk about what you don't like. So for me, the plastic spoon drives me insane.
Right. Yeah.
Or the type of spoon, fork that just bends too easily. You think, you stick. You think, I like it to be a certain substance,
a certain heft.
Certain, did you
certain
know restaurants do this? Do you know restaurants do that? Because we're kind of human beings. We're kind of the whole podcast is about neurodiversity, but we're kind of pretty stupid in a lot of ways. Apparently, we associate good food with heavy cutlery. So you often get if a top quality like a Michelin star restaurant wants to up the kind of the sensory perception of their food, therefore the quality, take it up a notch or two. They'll buy slightly heavier cutlery. In our minds, Martin, we think, heavy cutlery, good quality. We do that. We make that weird association. Bizarre, I think.
Yeah. All right. So I think this is a good segue because, like, I never noticed myself that I had a particular favorite spoon or type of spoon.
Yes.
And then when I got diagnosed or whatever, suddenly things like that. Oh, it usually takes someone else to point it out, and then I go, "Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. I do have a preference to the spoon."
And it is exactly you go. It's exactly that kind of tone of voice. You go, "Oh yeah,
I know." Ooh. Right, and it's definitely has that that feeling that that you kind of get, which is like, I thought I was the only one who, you know, had these kind of like little weird idiocies, and then you find out that you're ADHD or autistic and ADHD or whatever, and then you start talking to people.
Eccentricities, almost like eccentricities.
Yeah. And then you realize everyone, like so many other people, are exactly the same. And you're like, I'm not unique anymore. I'm one of you lot.
What comes to mind is like those stupid microfiber kind of shower, microfiber. It's like, it just shouldn't exist.
Oh, yes.
And then all the problems I had with a kid with the texture of certain foods, and just a lot of anxiety, a hell of a lot of anxiety, like almost daily. You know, the like embarrassment, shame. You know, went to eat at my mate's house, and his mother would always say, "Oh, I'm a fussy eater." And God, the shame, and it's like, oh God, and it's like crap, all of that crap.
And you start thinking, oh, hang on a second. Oh, that's why I wasn't like a fussy eater, as it were. This is a sensory thing that I have. Like, oh, okay. You know, and
you just dealt with different cards to everyone else.
Yeah, and I feel like it takes away at least some of the shame of it. You know?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
And there's just so many things that I know. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's daily, but almost daily. There's those kind of feelings or those kind of revelations happen almost daily.
Yes.
That you like,
I mean, even for me, right? Because you've been diagnosed for about just shy of 2 years or something, right?
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed for a lot longer, and even now, like this stuff just comes up quite regularly still.
Yeah.
You know, of oh, that was my ADHD or that was my autism or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, but also not necessarily all negative stuff as well, because it's easy to talk about the negative stuff. You know, there's tons. Like, you know, I'm currently working in like the wasp's nest of neurotypical kind of world that is school, as a as a supply teacher, and I feel like I stick out like a sore thumb. I really stick out.
Right.
And probably because I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's just not just my kind of. There's an element of me thinking, you know, I'm a bit oversensitive to it, but I think I do stick out.
Right. I think, you know, like when you were saying, oh, you know, that there's a plus side to it.
Yeah.
It did make me think that I end up trusting my intuition more now that I know that there's almost like a sort of that there is something credible behind it. It isn't just a kind of a gut reaction to things. It's like, oh, okay, my brain is literally looking for patterns, looking for you know, this or that or the other, looking for things that connect, and that's what it's good at. And if it's good at it, and it says, "Oh, Martin, you should do A, B, and C or whatever," then I'll trust it more because I trust my brain more because I know I have ADHD.
Yeah, I think what came to mind as you were saying that is like it's so easy to get into this idea, which is it's not something to fix,
right?
You know, which is the current political climate in America with this report that's supposed to be coming out in September.
Yeah,
Jesus, that in their
Yeah.
minds it's something
Let's
that's
not go
fixed
there.
and it's a disease. Yeah, but it's still relevant. But it's something we live with. If we're honest, we feel like I felt like there was something I needed to fix. There's something wrong with me. Okay, then you get to a point
Mm-hmm.
where you get the diagnosis, and hopefully you've gone through the hoops and you've jumped over those kind of mental obstacles. And you realize actually yeah, I mean, let's be honest. There are things that we need to fix, but not with a with a little f coming from a
Manage.
caring place. Manage
Right.
better, you know. Recognize and give it a name, whatever. Jerry, Harry, Jenny, whatever name you want to give to it,
From the block.
and but also potentially celebrate it. At
Yeah.
least give it the give it that potential, the space in your mind to think, oh, is it something to be fixed? Or actually, the polar opposite, something you could actually celebrate. You know,
Yeah. I think there are definitely some upsides. So, so for me, it's about kind of like using the upsides the best I can and then try and
yeah,
manage the downsides. And then hopefully I'll kind of
hmm
like, will my day will go okay.
yeah. Because there are obstacles along the way. What's come to mind is people, someone came up to me and said, "Oh, you don't look like you've got ADHD, or you don't look like you have autism."
Hmm.
What? I mean, that's a reality check. When you get those kind of comments, or people
Yeah.
just look at you sideways, like you in the swimming pool with the guy that
Right.
used to meet fairly regularly,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
suddenly
See,
crossing the other side of the swimming pool
right.
to
Because
avoid conversation.
it is in interesting because people say, "Oh, you don't look like you have ADHD," but then I don't really know what someone looks like when they have
Yeah,
ADHD. Autism,
I
I kind
think
of
I
get
think because
more.
they get it confused. They get it confused with Down syndrome.
Oh, really?
I
Huh.
think so. They think, oh, you maybe have different eyes or something, different, or slightly longer earlobes.
All
Something,
right.
a sign, a freaking
Right.
sign.
Right. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what people's images are, but yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they
One
want
thing.
it to be so make it easier. Then that way, psychologically, they don't have to think about themselves of
Well,
might
yeah,
having
obviously.
may it's like, oh, I haven't got strange ears, so I
Yeah.
can't have it
Yeah.
anyway.
All right. So when you've had that diagnosis or the self diagnosis, you kind of go, oh, you know what? I think I am ADHD. Do you
Yeah.
kind of do that thing where you start looking? I mean, like, so for example, I'll be watching a TV show and there's a bunch of people, like real people, on
Mm,
there. So it's like a sort of uh, a reality show or a
yeah.
documentary, and you'll
hmm
go, "Oh, that person, yeah, yeah, that person's got
Yeah. Yeah.
ADHD,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can start to
Yeah.
spot them.
Oh yeah. And you get more and more efficient at it, like within a nanosecond, a little detail, and then they'll say something else. You think, oh yeah, and then they say something
Yeah.
else. Oh come on, yes, come on, ticking the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know. I know. I like that.
yeah.
That's one of the
I
things
was
I
listening to
just yeah.
a great. I'm going to plug another podcast. Is great, and I think it's one that you listen to too. It's called Weirdos.
Yep.
And they celebrate anything that's weird. It is great. It's a great podcast. And this morning they had an English comedian called Nick Helm,
All right.
fabulous, fuck, off the charts funny comedian Nick Helm, and he was talking, and it's like, and I wasn't even looking out for it, but he was like talking and talking and talking, like tick tick. I mean, so obviously ADHD. They didn't talk about ADHD, but it was really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
What stand-up comedians is like, I think 7 in 10 stand-ups in England, at least, are they joke. They actually in the stand-up comedy community, it's kind of an open joke at the moment that they're like virtually all ADHD.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we have discussed this in the past where we kind of go
yeah,
where we've said, does ADHD make you funnier?
yeah.
And I think it ended up as
Hell yes,
that it was a yeah. I think it does. Having ADHD
yes. I think
does
it
make you
does.
funnier.
Yeah, I think
I
I don't
think
know.
so.
Is it possible to have if you're ADHD and not be funny? Of course it is, but it's quite rare actually. I find most ADHD is hilarious.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we, like one of those things that we notice is other people, and especially not just the people on TV and films,
Hmm.
but your friends and family, right?
Hmm.
Especially your family, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've talked about this
Oh
several
yeah.
times where you get a diagnosis and then you start to look up and down the chain, right? You start up
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
up at your parents or your grandparents, and
Yeah.
if you've got kids, you start going, oh, hang on a second,
Yeah.
hang on a minute.
Yeah. And it's well, apparently it's 70% chance that you've got your ADHD or autism from one of your parents. 70%. It's pretty
Right.
high. Some
Yeah, I mean,
say it's even higher.
I got it from my mum, which obviously
Hmm.
then, and then I go, so, but both my mum and dad were on were had mental health stuff going on, and
Hmm.
then I look at my mum's grandparents, and you start going back and you start to look for clues that your
Hmm.
grandparents may have been on the spectrum. And we've talked about this before, where
Hmm.
my granddad had a cheese and pickle sandwich every day
Right.
of his
Hmm.
entire working life, and then had an
Exactly.
apple pie when he came home, and
Yeah.
that was his
That's
rules.
mental.
And you
Yeah.
kind of go, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you, Grandad.
Did you get a roll with it? You got a roll with it.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
the old.
my only question is
Mhm.
my only question is like because in my family, thank God, alopecia skipped a generation. So there's some traits that skip generations, and
Right.
unfortunately, my nephew, so my son's cousin, Daniel got the alopecia. So my dad has it, has it.
Mhm.
I went through most of my adolescence having weekly nightmares, thinking my hair was going to drop out at any second.
I know you did. I mean, like even when
Yeah,
I met you, like what was it,
right.
40 years ago or
40
whatever it
years
was,
ago. Yeah.
you were like that. That was one of your early things. Was like,
Oh,
I'm going to go
yeah.
bald, mate. I'm going to go bald.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
totally.
bald.
Totally. It didn't happen. It skipped a generation. So can can autism skip generations too?
Good
You
question.
know.
I don't know.
Ooh.
I know. Well, that's something for us to research. But if you know
Yeah.
anyone in there who's listening out there who knows, get in the
Yes.
comments and tell
Yes.
us.
Let us know.
Tell
Yeah.
us.
By the way, that if you want to check out the ADHD and funny kind of all ADHD is funny episodes,
Mhm.
episode number 60. Check it out
Oh,
because by now
okay.
we're actually today's episode is 81. 81
81, mate.
episodes. So yeah. So if you want to go
81.
back through the archive, it's a particularly good episode, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. I one of the things I noticed, which is it's actually been one of the really positive things post diagnosis, is energy in general. Like
Hmm.
I used to give myself a really hard time, thinking I was convinced that I was lazy, and
Right.
now I realise like there's a freaking logic there. It's such an obvious logic, just sheer mental exhaustion of having racy minds.
Yeah.
And the way it shows up for me is like in the morning, I struggle to like get myself going. It's like, oh God, here we go again.
Right.
But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big
No.
one.
Yeah, because because you catch yourself with this internal ableism talk
Hmm.
that you used to have, right? So it's like, oh, I
Hmm.
used to be, I'm lazy, or you know,
Yeah,
or you're flaky, or you're broken in some way. And then
yeah,
once you kind of know that you have ADHD, you kind of go, oh, hang on a second, I've labeled that all wrong. I should just
yeah.
take off the label,
Hmm.
and I should just got to go, oh, it's just a
Yeah,
ADHD. It's not my fault. My brain's
yeah,
wired in its little crazy way.
yeah. But in a smaller scale way, also, if I come out from just come away from a social activity like a meeting with lots of people, or like I did today, for example, I teach conversation English I go to Italian companies, and like group of 4 of their employees today, teaching them English. And that's only an hour. I come out and I'm really glad that I've got like a 30-minute drive afterwards, just to
Hmm.
like let it go. I find it exhausting, totally exhausting.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't
yeah.
just like jump from one thing to another, and
Right, because that's the expectation. If you think that you're normal, a normal person would then just kind of go from that meeting, could then just swivel
yeah,
and do this other thing,
yeah,
and then you start realizing, no, actually, you know what, Uh, burnout. I need time to
hmm,
like recuperate, and just
yeah,
I need time for my brain to just to process what
hmm,
that was all about.
yeah,
Um, so your world then looks different, because you're kind of now
totally,
thinking about, rather than going one thing
hmm,
to the next, you have to
yeah,
anticipate, okay, well, if I'm going to do this big thing now, I'm going to be burnt out afterwards,
hmm,
so I shouldn't book anything
yeah,
after an intense period. I should just allow myself
exactly.
to feel, normal,
Exactly.
normal,
Yeah.
to
Whereas
recover.
before, because I was thinking about this about 3 weeks ago. Many years ago, it was about 24 years ago. I went through. I was working in London, and I went through like a 3 month period at an agency, working really, really hard, like like getting home at 2 o'clock in the morning, getting up at 6:30, pretty much every day, other than weekends, obviously, but for 3 months. And I got to the end of it, and I was kicking off. I was all over the place, and I didn't know. I didn't have a name for it.
Right.
I didn't have. I just, and I think in reality I was resisting against it, and just came out as like I just got like I became a loose cannon, and
Hmm.
in the end I left that position because I was convinced myself it was many other things other than just burnt out,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about, Paul Loose Cannon Thompson.
Yeah. So, and even to the point I was trying to shrug it off, deflect it so much. I even pretended that I liked the name of being a loose cannon, a little bit of pride in it. It just nonsense. I was just exhausted.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
yeah.
know. Another thing
Actually,
is
actually, I do like a little bit loose cannon as a name. I must admit, it's all right.
rebel,
I'll go with that.
rebel. Yeah.
Yes,
Um. Yes, I know you like to be a little bit of a rebellious
yes,
little chipmunk.
being
Hmm.
yes, chipmunk. Yes. Hey, you
Um.
were saying?
No, I was just kind of going on, just other things that you kind of end up doing or noticing, or is like, certain things work for you and certain things don't. Like you
Mm-hmm.
start to go, oh, hang on a second. I noticed that if I have a protein so for me, if I have like a protein in the morning, like egg or even a protein shake, I will be my day goes a lot smoother. Like my energy is more level rather than up and down. So so you start to notice that things help you or hinder, like coffee or Haribo's, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah.
I know that you have a
Yes.
history of the
Haribo.
Haribo.
I like a Haribo, but it plays havoc with my ADHD. I
Right.
also self-medicate because I don't medicate because I haven't found anything that works for me. But I self-medicated with coffee, but actually it's not good for me at all. It makes my mind even racier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. It's not good. Caffeine is not good. So
Right.
yeah, but eggs. There was a ADHD nutritionalist who said eggs are great for ADHDers. Really
Yeah.
good food for us. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Protein is definitely helps me. So like also things that I can now just happily throw away, which is like sort of any any planner that I think should work that doesn't
Oh
work. I go,
yes.
no,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
don't need you.
Yeah.
Any book on the shelf, if I go into a bookstore, it says 10 winning ways to become,
Uh huh.
your best self or
Your
whatever.
better self. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not specifically ADHD, it
Yeah.
won't work. Don't bother.
Yeah.
If
Right.
if
Yes.
if I buy
Mm-hmm.
it, it's just gonna be a waste of
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah. Well, psychologists too. There's
Yeah,
a lot of psychologists are just not good for us. There was a lady I was listening to the other day. She's a specialist ADHD psychologist, and there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't work for ADHD people. That would work with neurotypical people as
yeah,
psychologists. That just don't work for us
right.
at
Yes,
all. So that's, I mean, that's,
absolutely.
we've said it many times in the past. I think a big part of taking care of ourselves, changing our inner dialogue, is also making good choices, and that one of those being, be careful with who you choose to. If you do choose to, go on a journey with a psychologist, be really careful about who you choose. I've
Right.
had two psychologists that should have diagnosed me as being autistic, and they didn't. Never
Right.
came up.
No, I know. Exactly the same here. But yeah,
Right.
like it means that, as you say, it's important to kind of pick where the help comes from, right? You
Yeah.
now go, okay, well, it has to be ADHD or autistic stroke ADHD or
Mhm.
whatever flavor you are, has to be suit you. And also, it means that I can throw away any advice from friends or
Yeah.
well-meaning people that I
Mhm.
know don't get it, like don't come from that place. So it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
advice they give, I can just not worry about
Mhm.
it because go, yeah, you know
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. 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 It's
not
the same when you
don't
hear,
bother.
you know, psychologists on YouTube's or something, and they're talking. You could tell when they're talking to neurotypicals, and because you like listen to it, think, oh my god, that is just so not on my radar. It's just so irrelevant in my world.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
You can see like 90%, if not more, psychologists are good for neurotypicals.
right. Because yeah, so for example, there's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the
Hmm.
therapy techniques areas that a lot of therapists use, and that is it assumes that your brain is normal, right? And then
Hmm.
it applies therapy to that. It's what they call like a top down therapy, i.e., the brain's normal, and then they kind of like
Hmm.
work your way down
Hmm.
it. But
Hmm.
actually, it doesn't work so well for ADHD or autistic people
Hmm.
because our brains are not wired like that. We need
Hmm. Hmm.
bottom up therapy where we
Right.
start with how is your brain actually
Yes.
wired? What
Yes.
makes it,
Totally.
what what is bad for it, and then you build from there. So it's more of a bottom up therapy rather than a top down one.
Yeah. Well, what comes to mind? What comes to mind with that is in India they teach maths completely differently to students than any other place in the world. They come at maths from a completely different angle, and it's not 42 degrees. It's another angle altogether, and it's just really interesting. And it's not by coincidence that most of the best mathematicians in the world come from India. They just approach it a completely different way. And so for me, the can make quite an easy kind of comparison to neurodiverse people. There's nothing to be fixed. There's nothing wrong. It just needs to be compensated for, and actually, compensated in the right way. It could be, make, especially in scholastic, school environments, university, make life actually easier for both parents, students, and teachers. But for the moment, I think teachers still see it as a complication that they don't want to have to deal with, which is totally wrong.
Yeah, we've discussed that. It's different country by country, and even school by school. Because I know that because we discussed that here in the States, not everywhere, but certainly in the better areas, we are good at looking for and accommodating for neurodivergent people better than other places.
Yeah. Well, there were some amazing experiments in, I think it was in New York. I think it was in Brooklyn or Harlem. Well,
Come on, New York.
Anyway, in the 1970s even, did some amazing experiments, and where they recognized that students were being left by the wayside and abandoned, and they was thinking, we need to do something about it, and they came up with a new type of school for them, and since then it's been rolled out across America. But still, people are taking it up, and there was like proven strategies for people that for students that don't work well with conventional school environments. It's all out there. It's all out there, but it's not been taken up on at a national level in any country. One of the things this school did, it's in one of the Malcolm Gladwell books. He talks about it. It's very cool. What they did was the first hour of every day of this new type of school that they set up, the first hour was learning how to learn. That was the lesson.
All right.
Learning how to learn. Every day they would learn how to learn. Brilliant.
No, that makes sense. Right. Because
totally brilliant.
we process information in a different way. So, we have to know how our brains work in order to kind of get it to do stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that when you get your diagnosis or yourself diagnosed, you realize that you're never going to be normal, right? And you can't be normal, and you have to approach the world in a different way, right? You have to approach life in a way that works for you. It might not work for other people, but you have to work with your brain, not against it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Because you go through, certainly I did go through most part of my life trying to resist it, it's just like, or ignore it, or repress it.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on, fit in, it's like having a jigsaw and just like trying to get pieces in, like banging the pieces in, like get the scissors out, it's like cut it. Like there must be some way of, fitting that piece in.
Right. Have you noticed, because I have, that since I was diagnosed, things are, I notice things that I that I suppressed before. So, for example, like the feeling of texture. So we talked about like microfiber earlier, right? So
Yeah.
before, I might have just in some way felt like I was feeling something and it was wrong, but I would just kind of push those feelings down, right? I'd just ignore it. Or
Yeah.
if the
Yeah.
lights were
Repressed.
wrong, I would just
Yeah.
push it all away.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I have been diagnosed, my world has shifted to, oh, I pay attention to that more. I now pay attention to the texture of things more, or whether the light is right, or whether the sounds are good or not. So it almost becomes like a different place, like even texturally, like
Yes.
things are more textured, or they smell
Yes.
more, or the colors are more
Yes.
intense.
Yes. Oh, totally. I think it's because we've spoken about this in other episodes, like unmasking. There's an element of unmasking because it not only uncovers, it also accentuates.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking the lid off, and you're not trying to mask it anymore. We do inevitably because it's reality.
Right.
In reality, we do, but I think in that unmasking, there's a huge element of like all of a sudden your ADHD or your autism or both is on steroids.
Right. Yeah. It just seems to get worse, right?
Yes. Yes.
Your neurodivergence goes from
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
2 or 3 to like 7 and 8. It's like, whoa,
Yeah. 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 And
this is nuts.
we've got an episode coming up. There's no spoiler, don't worry. But we've got an episode coming up. I think it's going to be really interesting. It's about autism and ADHD, and that part of our
Well,
brain, our
aren't
tiny
we?
little minds.
Isn't the episode where we take a bunch of autism tests and then we
Yes,
share the result?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's coming up
yeah.
because I did
That's
mine.
coming up.
I did mine earlier today. Now I won't
Uh
spoil
huh.
it, but so
Yeah, I did mine yesterday.
all right. So I think next week we should
Hmm.
do that. I think
Let's do
next
it. Let's
week's
do it.
episode will be,
Yeah.
let's share what's going
But it
on.
just because, but it's not a spoil. But what I will say is, I now look at myself and think, how could I have not known? It's so obvious. It's like, you know,
Yeah. But then
it's
I
like,
thought, but what? I didn't know what ADHD was until 13 years ago, right? It was just like, oh,
yeah,
you've got ADHD. I was like, I have no idea what that is.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I just, just like so many people, you just kind of end up going, oh, it's just me. I'm weird. So I'll just push
yeah,
all that down,
yeah.
and it's exhausting, quite frankly.
There's one thing I've noticed a hell of a lot more of since I got diagnosis is loneliness. It does a bit like
Loneliness.
the as I said before, it's like you're feeling like your symptoms are on steroids. Loneliness can feel more lonely at times, even though I've never felt before my diagnosis. I never felt ever part of any kind of tribe whatsoever. I felt
Hmm.
all alone, my little,
Alone.
on my
I'm
own
all
little planet,
alone. Nobody there beside
But
me.
there can be now, also because, especially because in Italy, autism and ADHD is not on the radar. They're like at least 10 years behind the UK and the US. And it can be, if I'm honest, it feels very lonely at times. Really
So
does.
lonely.
So,
So
and I felt
lonely.
lonely before, but even more so now. It's like, now you give it a name, and
All right.
you see
In,
its boundaries. Yeah.
interesting because I feel less alone now that I know
Okay.
that there's loads of people who are exactly like me. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
actually
Yeah,
part of
but
there's
I don't
people
know about you though,
that
but
get me.
I know there are people. I just want to meet more of them.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
you're in the wrong country for that.
Yes, I totally am.
Although, are you? Because with your special ADHD/autism radar,
Yes.
you can pick them out without
Oh, they're
necessarily.
everywhere. But
Yeah.
there's so many of them are in denial. Or they're not even, they're denying their denial even. They're so far off,
Right.
even thinking about it.
I know.
So it makes it even worse. Like, oh God,
Right. Well, I guess you can talk around the edges, right? So it's like, oh, I like
Yeah,
rocks. Do you like rocks? Oh, yeah, I really like rocks.
yeah,
Oh, aren't rocks great? So let's talk
yeah.
about rocks without kind of going, you're ADHD or you're
It feels like,
slightly autistic.
I use a football analogy. It feels like I'm in I've like come out for a football match. The whole stadium's ready. I'm ready to like perform, and everyone else is still in the changing rooms. They haven't even put their socks on.
Oh, Jesus.
They probably
You're
left
out
their
there on
socks
your
at
own.
home.
Oh,
Half of them
no.
left their socks at home.
You're out there on the pitch doing your stretches.
They didn't even know they're on the team sheet. They didn't even know they were supposed to be playing that day.
Yeah.
And there I am doing doing stretches in the halfway, on the pitch, doing stretching
on the touch line.
Yeah, it's on the touchline, doing squats.
Right.
And and
all alone.
All alone.
All alone, I'll be there beside you.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And we do this podcast is great. Well, we haven't met physically. When's the last time we met?
Oh, I don't know.
Physically.
Decades? Years? long time, mate.
Decades, no. I'd say about 10 years.
Was it my dad's funeral? Was it someone's funeral?
No.
All right.
No.
A while.
I think it's 10 years, maybe more. 12.
All right. Yeah.
Way too long. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow. What about you, Mott? Have you got any other stuff that you
No.
noticed
I've now exhausted all my golden words of wisdom. Personally, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, last thing is just how intelligence is measured. Before my diagnosis, I was like aware and really passionate about how IQ intelligence was actually measured.
Mm-hmm.
And having now, being diagnosed and doing a lot of research, over the last 80 episodes, realized like the standard way of I feel what's the word?
Vindicated?
Vindicated, thank you. Of all the thoughts, this injustice I felt, frustration for years, like, Jesus, it's such a limited and narrow way to actually judge intelligence or to measure intelligence, because I've actually got something here. Standard ways of measuring intelligence does not measure emotional intelligence. It doesn't measure creative thinking. It doesn't measure sensory perception. It doesn't measure pattern recognition in non-verbal contexts. It doesn't measure interpersonal or intrapersonal intelligence.
Right.
It doesn't measure tons of other things. Embodied cognition, which is in brackets, how the body contributes to thinking of problem solving. So, reading body language.
Yeah, it doesn't even measure how good you are as a podcast host.
No.
None
Should
of
be
it.
in there. Yeah. It doesn't measure. There's so much stuff. Social intelligence. How people respond in a social environment. I mean, if that's not human, what is?
Right. So you get your so you realize that you're different, and you go, oh, that's why the standardized tests did not work for me. That doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It just means that I work in a different way. Oh, and when you take all this other stuff into account, like, emotional intelligence and creative intelligence and all that, you can go, actually, you know what? I'm pretty good.
Yeah. I can read a room. Like, it's quite scary how I can read a room.
Right.
And I know, there's a lot of people in the ADHD community who say, let's not exaggerate on this. It's not like all ADHDers are great out of the box thinkers. It's not that all ADHDers are, this and that, superheroes or whatever. That's true. But I think there is a higher percentage of people who do have ADHD and autism that are particularly sensitive in certain situations, I think.
Yeah. Especially
it's not because one doesn't exclude the other. I think that's probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah, because I think what happens is if you realize that you're not good at social stuff or you're not good at social cues, then it almost becomes like a little bit of a hyper focus for you. So you kind of like really pay attention. Yeah. And also, because there are various traumas that come out of ADHD and autism, that a trauma response is that you want to read the room for your own safety, right? You want to
massively
see whether it's like a safe place or not a safe place.
Yeah, hypervigilant.
Yeah, for sure.
My ability for sure. My sensibility in terms of reading a room comes from my hypervigilance, definitely. Like reading a room for danger, effectively, and that transforms into other, advantages.
Right. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Or in my case, thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get in the tractor and we'll drive. Get back to the King's agitated head, and and we no. Let's go to the post office. What am I talking about?
Let's go to the post office. Yes,
the post office.
From the library to the post office.
Yes.
Have we just so we know? I think all of our listeners want to know. Did we remember to take the plough off the back of the tractor?
God damn it!
Is it still there?
No. It's still there, and I'm not entirely sure how you actually lift it up either.
Well, it hasn't been greased for about 20 years. It's probably rusted on.
I know. So we'll just have to carve our trademark furrow to to the post office.
Right.
You know what? This sort of ADHD town is looking like all the furrows just lead to the post office. Like,
yes,
okay. Goes from the coffee shop to the anyway,
we could never never rob a bank in the tractor.
No, we could not rob a bank with this tractor.
Let's just remember that. Let's not rob a bank with the tractor with the plough on the back. It's like, where's Paul and Martin, these robbers? Let's follow this furrowed road.
Let me just grab a Post-it note and I'll just put it up there. Don't
rob a bank.
Don't rob bank with the tractor. Right.
Yes.
There we go. All right. Wise. So this is the part where you say.
This is a bit where I say, your feedback is really vital to us. We read all of your comments. We might read yours out on a future podcast, like this one, Martin.
Right. So we have one from Shelley about last week's podcast where we did talk about Schrodinger's monkey. She says, at last, someone besides me has heard of Schrodinger's monkey.
Yes.
And then also we have another comment from the ADHDville town crier, Alexandra. She said on the YouTube. So last week you told a story about a donkey that your friend went to sell. And then he sold it, and then he bought a new donkey, came back with it, and it turned out to be exactly the same. donkey, right? And this donkey had no name.
It was a friend's grandfather.
Right. Friend's grandfather.
Slightly inebriated.
and this donkey had no name. And Alexandra says it's a crime not naming the donkey.
Yes.
And, it was clear that the donkey didn't want to leave his home. He must have felt very, very wanted. I can imagine him thinking, they all want me today. I must be the best donkey ever. It must be Dory the donkey.
The donkey.
And it says,
I never did find out whether it was a male or female. I think it's a male donkey. It's a male donkey. They didn't even know the sex of it, probably.
Right, and she offers up a useless fact of the day, that there's a theory that the donkey from Shrek, from Shrek is actually Lampwick from Pinocchio, whose actual name was Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
If your student is Italian, he might like the backstory.
Yeah, he's Albanian, but donkey.
There we go. So if you've got any comments about this show, as Paul says, just get in the comments, like us, subscribe, hit the like button, write something, even if it's just a thumbs up. It all helps with our algorithm.
Subscribe.
Right.
Subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It's all good for us. It actually helps. We all hate being, us especially, we hate being, slaves to the algorithm, but it really makes a big difference. So that would be appreciated if you can do that for us.
Right. Actually, you know what? I will go back to one of the other comments. I'm now trawling on. Oh no. Is there any other comments? No. All right. That's it for now. I know I already mentioned that our Scottish friend.
Oh yes,
Debbie.
They were admiring your Scottish accent.
Well, no, not so much that.
Okay.
She did say on the TikToks that she was blaring out our podcast, and she was using our podcast to help clean her house. So there we go.
Fabulous.
See,
love that.
We're entertaining, and we're hopefully a bit educational, and we also help you with with your
greasing the cogs, if you like,
with your dusting and your feathering.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Well, that being said, let me say that ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all purveyors of fine podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and rate us most amazing. And feel free to correspond with us in the comments. But wait, there's more. If you want to see our beautiful, beautiful faces, then you can sally forth over to the TikToks, the YouTubes, and you can also find us on Substack. And you can pick up a quill and email us at adhdville@gmail.com. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
Yeah, do that. But also, I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself, sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh. It sounds like something Brian Blessed should say. We should have him on as a guest. Brian Blessed.
There, says the mayor.
Love that, man.
That's that.
Ooh.